Hello everybody and welcome back to Evil Ted Live here on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. In today's episode, we're going to be painting a prop from the movie, the R.I.P.D. Police. This was with Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges. They were basically like guys who hunted ghosts, which was kind of a ripoff of Men in Black, but then Men in Black was kind of a ripoff of something. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's a cool prop. We did props for the show. It's these cool revolvers they had. These were the background cops. We had to make a bunch of these, and so of course I had one left over I took. And I thought, what a great way to take this bad boy and paint it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. All right, here it is. Again, this is a nice casting. As you can look down, there's some bubble pieces. There are bubbles that got in the molds, lots of pinholes. But we're going to start with the bottom here. It's really rough. This is the pour spout. If you guys can see here, if you look, when you pour a mold, we use the handles of pour spout, and these were little bleeders, so I got to cut these guys out. But before we do that, I'm going to take this handle and just kind of. Now I look at, I was going to belt sand it, but I'm looking at it, it's pretty flat. So I'm just going to take a sanding stick and just clean up this edge. Because these are bright nail files, you guys can get these in the links below. But I'm just going to do this, and now, yeah, because this actually is not, it's actually kind of flat. So I'm just going to go ahead and knock this down. Now, there's little bubbles in here. I've always found those are easy to remove with an X-ACTO blade. Just kind of get in here and kind of cut them off. Yeah, see? What I try to do is pop off, get the worst of it, and then come back in with a sanding stick. Okay, now I got the worst of this stuff cut off with the X-ACTO blade. Now we're going to pull out the needle files. And there's some stuff in here I know I could probably get with a kind of get in and sand these little bumps down. Now you guys notice right here, these little sprues. These are when they pour the mold. We made these little connections so the plastic could come all the way up through here. But we're eventually going to cut those off. But I don't want to cut these off yet. The reason being because this is kind of gives these guys structural support. So if I start pushing and filing on them, if they're not here, my fear would be to break them. So I'm going to leave these guys intact until I'm done sanding a majority of this stuff. And then when I'm done sanding, then I'll come back in with a cutting wheel and cut these guys out. But I'm just going to keep them right now because it kind of helps hold the triggers in place when I'm pushing on them, sanding them. And there's itty bitty stuff like, again, when sanding something, you understand what you can get away with. This gun I'm going to paint like chrome. I want it to be silver. So all these little imperfections, if you don't sand them, they'll pop back up. So I'm going to go back through this. Well, I feel pretty comfortable right now. Let's go get a rotary tool with a cutting wheel. I'm going to cut these guys out. And that tool I'm going to use is my cutting wheel. It's like a little buzzsaw blade. Now, this is being a straight blade with a little bit of a curve. And if I get in here, my fear is I'm going to cut this edge. So we're going to change that to another smaller bit. We're just going to, got my little tooth bit right here. We're just going to very gently just get in there and kind of grind that out because the cutting wheel is a bit too big for that. All right, that. So we'll clean up with the sanding stick. I am pretty happy with the sanding. What we're gonna do is gonna start putting some spot putty on this, but I have a compressor, air compressor. I'm just going to take this gun and blow all the excess dust off before that. So let me take this off camera because it's gonna get dusty and loud. Hold on. The reason I like blowing stuff out because these little pinholes and stuff will just fill up with dust and you won't be able to get spot putty in them. So I always like to blow air to get the dust and everything out. And again, oh look what I just noticed when like more things I missed. Oh, all right, good grief. The sanding will never stop. It's become the sanding stream show. I am going to get me some spot putty. I'm going to start filling all the little pinholes and bumps next. Oh look, more crap I didn't see. Look at, what the hell? What is this? Good grief, Ted. It's never ending with this gun. Again, a little bit of a once over. I figure I'm just going to do some spot putty. And again, I'll probably just do all this. We'll do a spot putty, let it dry. And this is a Bondo glazing spot putty. And this stuff air dries. And I got myself a spatula. I'm just going to kind of, I find with things like spot putty, I just kind of like lay it on thick and push into it. And get it nice and thin. Now, the thinner it is, the faster it will dry. All right. Get that. Now there's these two big holes here, and they're so big that I would be more comfortable putting Bondo in there than spot putty. Because spot putty, when you put in there, it has a tendency to shrink, and these holes are deep, and they're just going to get, you're always going to see them, so I'm just going to do that with Bondo. So again, I mixed up a very small amount of Bondo because I don't need a lot, so. And stuff in these holes. I always like to start from the edge of the hole. And the reason I start from the edge is because you want to make sure you get it fills in there. Because sometimes you push from the top, the air won't let it get in there, so you kind of sneak in there. All right, the spot putty in Bondo is now dry. I'm going to go back in with my little bit of a heavier grit. I'm going to knock this down just a little bit, get the high points up, and I'm going to go back in with a finer sanding stick here. Okay, while this is drying, I want to be able to hang this. I'm going to drill a hole right here in the back of this handle. The reason I'm doing this, this is a heavy piece of plastic resin, so I want to be able to hang this gun and paint it. So how I'm going to go about doing that is I'm going to take a drywall screw, like so, very carefully. There you go, okay. Now that's mounted in there, what I'm going to do is it'll allow me have some armature wire. I'm going to clamp around this screw head really quickly here, wrap this. And again, the whole purpose of doing this is so I can hang it to paint it. All right, just making sure this does not come off. All right, there it is. The gun has now been primered. It's drying. And what makes this stuff so great, as I like about this stuff, is that you can put it on really heavy and let it dry, and it kind of works like spot putting its own right. Fills in little pinholes, but I put it on about 3 coats, so it's really soft. So what I have to do is I have to wait for this to dry. I'm going to go back in with some 400 grit sandpaper and wet sand this very beautifully and let this dry. Now once that's done, I will go ahead. My next step is to paint the whole gun with this Rust-olem metallics finish. It's a bright silver. I'm going to coat the gun with that. But unfortunately, with the weather condition, I'm going to probably do that later today because it's too wet right now. So I'm going to let this dry for a little bit with wet sand in it. So when we come back, this gun will be silver, and then we'll start to proceed to mask the handle. So what you guys will miss is just me wet sanding, which I don't think is a big deal. All right, as you can see, it's been spray painted with my Rust-olem metallic finish. Good. But again, last you saw I had the primer on it. I ended up putting, I do the Rust-olem automotive primer. I ended up putting about 3 coats of the primer on this. And what I like is like a body filler. I get it on pretty heavy, and when it was dry, instead of the finish was so good on this gun that I didn't wet sand it. I just went in with some fine steel wool that I had right here, and I just polished it. So I had enough primer on this that I could take off. This is like 000, like super fine steel wool, and I just polished it. Just went back and forth all over the Bondo, and it put a nice little sheen on it. Got a nice polish on it, and I went ahead, hung it, and painted it with the silver. So this was yesterday. It's nice and dry, and the reason I want to do it yesterday so it has time to dry because I have to mask it today. We're going to mask off the portion here and cover the center part, so we're going to paint the handle black. But before we do that, let's go and take the screw out temporarily right now, because I need to take the screw out, because we'll put that back later when we're ready to paint. But right now, just to mask, just make this a little bit easier for us. There we go. Definitely keep this aside, because we'll be using this again when we go to paint the handle. This is my favorite tape. This is Tamiya tape, and definitely if you guys want to know about this stuff, I'll have links for this below the video. This is made for Model. It's a Japanese brand company, and these guys make this tape. I like. It sticks well, but it has a low resistance of tack, so it will not damage the paint you have underneath it. Very low tack, but it masks beautifully. So we're going to start by running the seam right down here in the middle, like this. The one thing about this gun I really like, the handle's all black, and to make it look a little more interesting, I want to drill some holes in it, and I went out ahead and got some real hardware, some screws. So it'd be kind of nice to have some drill holes, paint it black, and I put this hardware in it. I think it would really kind of pull it together. So let's go ahead and drill some holes. I got the most important stuff masked off, but to cover the majority of this before I spray paint it, I love using this packing tape. Now you can get this stuff at most hardware stores. I get this at Harbor Freight. I love this stuff because you can mask, and it's plastic, so there's no resistance to it, and it won't damage your paint. So this is how I'll be able to protect my gun when painting. As a matter of fact, I should have done this first before I started masking, therefore I wouldn't have bought fingerprints. So I very carefully just wrap this. Look at that. The cool thing about this, if you can go a different direction, is start right here and kind of go up over these triggers like this. Very carefully. Like that. Now you'll see some of the saran wrap will kind of hang over, and it's all right. We're just going to very carefully come back in here with a pair of scissors and just cut off the excess. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that we're going to put tape where the saran wrap plastic stops, the tape begins. Now I'll be able to cover a wide area. Perfect. To block these holes off. Now I'm just applying the tape under the Tamiya and the plastic. Make sure I make a good contact. There we go. We just want to make sure we have that completely sealed off. We don't want any paint getting in there. Okay, here we are. It's completely covered. I'm going to just give it a once over. Look, make sure I got everything covered. You don't want to have that all done and have it come back and see a spot that you missed. Yep, this is securely, and I am satisfied with its coverage. We're good. So we're going to go ahead and replace my screw so I can hang this, and we'll be able to spray paint some black. Hold on, let me put my screw back in. All right. I just got a white t-shirt. I don't want to lay this down on paper for the fear of it sticking. The paint's relatively fresh, but I think it's fresh enough to take the tape off. So let's go ahead and remove the screw here. There we go. Hold on, I'm gonna get some scissors action in this. Cut some of this stuff off. Okay, the saran wrap, there you go. If you just kind of find where you've been, just kind of go back and very carefully undo just what you did. Just kind of gently pull and unwrap. Beautiful. Now, very carefully, we're going to lift this tape back off. And I'm just going to reach in and kind of grab the tape. Oh, crap. You guys can see right here, it took off some of the silver paint. Right in there. Some of the paint I got in there was not down good enough. I'm going to have to go back in with a brush, some chrome paint, and just touch it up very carefully. But yep, sure enough, it took some of the paint off. That is a risk we take. That's why I recommend when you're doing something with the chrome paint is letting it stay and dry as long as possible. Yeah, see, you can see some of the, on the reflections, I don't know if you guys can see a little bit of the tape residue again. This is all because I just did not let the paint, yep, oh my god, the chrome came off here as well. Again, when you're dealing with chrome paints, I only let this dry for a day, and the weather was not the best, so a little damp. But if you're definitely dealing with the chrome paint, let it dry at least 2 days. Get it nice and dry, because we only had a couple casualties. We have this spot right here, which I got some Tamiya chrome, and I'm actually just gonna probably, luckily it's really close in here, it'll be nice. It doesn't look that bad because the casting under here is gray. So it's kind of a happy accident, because when the chrome came off, it's not obvious. If this casting was black and it came off, we would see this really bad. So luckily it's just gray. I'm gonna just touch this up with some paint. And we have a spot back here too. And I can tell by looking at the reason it came off, I just didn't get the paint in there heavy enough. So there's some thin spots it kind of came up on. You can see where the tape pulled off my paint. I'm going in with my chrome. Huh? Look at that. Pow. Not as bad as it was. There you go. No, there's a second spot right there. Round 2. Now again, if I had more time, what I would do is I would let this whole thing dry completely. Let it dry for a couple days, and I would just go ahead and mask this off very carefully. Spray some of this silver paint, spray paint into an airbrush, and gently just lay it back on. Now it's concerned how far you want to go, but realizing these spots were so bad, they're so small, that's not much of an issue for me. I just went ahead and just touched it up. All right, now we got the chrome spots we touched up. I'm going to take some Tamiya flat black, and I'm going to paint the barrels, because if you notice on the gun, the holes right there, not very convincing. So I'm going to take some paint. Now I'm looking at this gun, this hole, I think it would be fine. I was going to put Bondo on this, but I'm realizing this is just a hole. So if I paint this black, you won't even see it. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this hole disappear by just painting it black. When in doubt, just black it out. See? Look at that. Gone. All right. These should just screw in very easily in theory. So the cool thing about this too is you don't have to glue them because they're already threaded, so I just kind of screw them into the plastic and they bite. Awesome. Looks so good. I love it. All right, let's do the other side. Of course, the threads on these are smaller, so of course they're just dropping in. Hold on. Right now, if the screws I know are too big to fit in, I've got my Zappa gap. I'm going to very carefully just drop a little bit of glue on the hole. There we go. Drop the screw in. There we go. Like that. Let me see if this one's the same thing. Yep. To just do a little bit of glue. Doesn't need a lot. There we go. There it is. Ah, perfect. Well, there it is, all completed. Again, this is from the movie, a cast background prop from the movie R.I.P.D. This I've had for years, and I kept meaning to paint this, and I was able to do it here on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, if you like what I'm doing, don't forget to subscribe. And even better yet, go to my website, eviltedsmith.com, and get on my mailing list. And while you're at it, go through my store. I have numerous patterns for sale. And if you're new to cosplay, go to Facebook and find Evil Ted's Foam Fanatics. There you'll find a really great, friendly foam fabricating community. Everybody there is our fellow builders, and if you're new to it and you have some questions, if I can't get to your questions right away, I guarantee somebody in there will. It's a great community. It's 3,000 and growing. Please go in there, join. It's a lot of great creative people in there. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.